You are your own best depression fighting asset. My kids got some glowing stars that they decorated their room with. And now before they go to bed, they take their flashlights and they charge up those stars so that what happens when they're going to bed, they have this beautiful display of stars that they could see and enjoy as they're going to sleep. And it made me think of something. Because I was talking with my uncle a couple months ago. He struggles with depression too. And we talked about how when you are depressed, you just want, it's dark. You just want it to stay dark. You don't want anybody shining any light of hope in there. You don't want somebody saying, it's going to be okay. You don't want any of that. You just want it to be dark and to stay dark forever. But we were talking about how somehow, if you can get some sort of light down in that deep, dark pit when you're feeling depressed, if you can get some sort of light down there, that's what you need to remind yourself that there is hope. And so I want to teach you and talk to you about 3 different assets that you can equip yourself with, that you can have, that you can be ready with when you get down in those depths. Because if you're like me, you know that you need to prepare beforehand because it's going to happen. And I'm grateful and I've been blessed to have struggled with depression a whole lot less because I've learned how to fight it. And I want to share those things with you because I wish I would have had these years ago. Somebody to think things through, somebody who's been there, done that, somebody who has overcome it to a great degree, but still understands what it's like to go through depression. So 3 depression fighting assets. And really all of it is you. Because who is there with you in the dark? It's yourself. Because you don't want anybody else with you. So you need to be prepared. 3 ways. 3 assets. Number 1 is your mind. Right? Scripture tells us, in your thinking, be mature. When we are depressed, we are not thinking mature. But when we are not struggling with depression, what we can do is we can learn to think maturely about life, about things, about circumstances, about things that might cause us to spiral down into depression. Our mind is our key aspect to fight depression. So memorize verses and phrases like, in your thinking, be mature. And as you start to possibly spiral down into depression, think to yourself, in your thinking, be mature. Say that to yourself. In your thinking, be mature. And you're going to start catching yourself. And you're going to start being able to think a little bit different about whatever it is that's causing you to potentially spiral down in depression. No, in your thinking, be mature. And then 1 Peter tells us, therefore, prepare your minds for action. So when you need to take action because you are in a depressed state, have you prepared your mind? That's what we need to make sure we're doing. Prepare your minds to take action in that time, in that place. So number 1 is your mind. And there's lots of things we can say about that. But how do you prepare your mind? Think about that. I encourage you. Memorize verses. Think about how you can prepare your mind. But what you can also do is prepare your habits. What are some habits? and I believe I've shared it with you before, but I have an end of day checklist, which is like set the alarm, make sure that the water filter is filled, make sure that the dishwasher is going, right? It's got all these things, but what it also has is it says submit willingly to the sovereignty of God. And I have a checklist on there. And I need to do that every day, because if at the end of the day I've struggled with depression, or I'm currently struggling with depression at the end of that day, or maybe I'm not, but I need to submit myself to the sovereignty of God. And that can be done in a lot of different ways, because maybe you were kicking against him that day. You need to submit. Maybe there's something coming up that you're anxious about and you need to trust him. Maybe there's something that you're fearful about, but you need to trust him. You need to look to his sovereignty. You need to say things to yourself like, I am a thread in the sovereignty of God's beautiful providence. Say things like that to yourself. That's a phrase that I say to myself a lot, is that I have a hard time believing that. But no, I am a thread in the tapestry of God's beautiful sovereignty. He is weaving all things together for his glory, and my life is part of that. And so I have a habit of every day reminding myself that I need to submit to his sovereignty. His sovereignty is good, his sovereignty is wise, and he has put me through the trials that he has for a purpose. And so I have habits. Other habits, when you're starting to spiral into depression, go into a different environment. Go outside. Do push-ups until you can't anymore. Do a bunch of jumping jacks. Change your state. Like, it might sound woo-woo, okay? But change your state by going outside, going into a different room, getting a bite of food to eat. I'm not saying eat in a depression way, but change your state. Sometimes I'll slap myself, right? Take action that you need to snap yourself out of that place, and have these thoughts in mind so that when you find yourself starting to spiral and starting to go down to into that dark pit, that you try to snap yourself out of it by your habits, what you remember, what you go through at the end of the day. And while you're in it, change your state. Do push-ups, go outside, whatever it might be. And then number 3 is your resources. What are your resources? I have a sticker on my monitor right here that says, thinking myopically, think providentially, right? What does that mean? Myopic is like you're focused in on one tiny thing. How many times has depression been caused by your one tiny thing is straight in front of your face and you can't see anything else? No, think providentially, think big picture, think 10 years down the road. Is this really going to be a problem? So I have that sticky note there to remind myself, what are you putting in your environment to remind yourself what you need to? And I change that sticky note out regularly, depending on what I might need. I've also shared with you oftentimes before that I have a list on my phone that says when you are low. And it has things in it that says things like, remember that majesty exists. Like, I don't see it. I'm in this dark place. I don't see that majesty exists. But it does. Even though I don't see it in the moment, it does exist. And so I have a note here that I've written a bunch of stuff in because I know that I need help. I'm gonna need help, and I don't want help from anybody outside. And so I've written stuff here that's to myself because I know what I need. Things like that. Remember that majesty exists. You have experienced it before. You know it exists. Beauty, peace, loveliness. And so I've written stuff to myself, whether it's a verse, whether it's a thought, whether it's something to kick myself, whether it's something to start just evaluating. Like, okay, what emotions are you going through when you're low? Just start thinking about it, because sometimes it's helpful to just like think about it and evaluate, Because when you start to evaluate, you start to kick yourself out of it, and you start to realize, well, maybe I don't actually need to be here in this depressed state, right? So what are your resources? I have a note. I also have, as I've mentioned, I believe previously, a playlist that is also titled When You Are Low. And it has songs that I want to listen to that I don't really want to listen to them when I'm happy, because they're not happy songs, but they do help me when I'm depressed. So find those songs for yourself. I'll make a list. I'll put my list down below, a link to it on YouTube, so you can link to it and watch it and get some ideas, or listen to it rather, and get some ideas and create your own, because you know what you want to listen to and what is going to be therapeutic and helpful for you. So you are your own best ally, own best asset for fighting depression, because you don't want anybody else with you while you're there. So how can you prepare your mind for action? By memorizing verses, by thinking maturely when you're outside of depression, so you're more and more in that habit, and you're less and less actually going to get in depression because you've learned to think maturely. Number two, what are your habits? What do you think about at the end of every day, or maybe at the beginning of every day? What do you do when you find yourself start to spiral? And number three, what are your resources? What resources have you created for yourself? Whether it's notes, whether it's sticky notes, whether it's a playlist that you just go to and just hit play, and now you start listening to these songs. Prepare yourself for action. You're gonna need it. I hope that helps.